Hey everybody, this is going to be the third video tip that we're doing on descending downhill switchbacks. In the first two, the first one was about line choice. It was directed at all levels of rider. Beginner riders, advanced riders, if you don't put the bike in the right place, it's going to be very difficult to get down some of these nasty switchbacks. The second one, we talked about the tripoding technique, where you actually take your inside foot off the pedal. You have a third point of contact. It's a safe way to get down some of these switchbacks. And again, for the beginner level rider, or used even in really nasty situations at a very advanced level, very effective technique. This third tip is directed much more at the advanced rider, and what we're going to do is we are actually going to manipulate the rear end of that bicycle, all right, by lifting that rear tire and changing our line and getting a better angle on that switchback, all right. If you cannot already lift that rear wheel, my suggestion is take some instruction. We spend a lot of time in our camps learning how to get that rear wheel up off the ground. That's the first part of this. However, often we get advanced riders into camps that can lift that rear wheel off the ground, but can they functionally begin to manipulate that rear end of the bicycle, and can they do it under control? So what this tip is really about is if you can already lift that rear wheel up, how can you get to the point where you can start to manipulate that back end of the bicycle and get a better angle on those switchbacks, change your line, yeah, that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to work our way from just lifting that rear end to how do we get to the point where we can really help ourselves out in those switchbacks. And there are switchbacks out there. If you don't manipulate the rear end of that bicycle properly, you're going to have to get off your bike and walk down them. So hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Stop back soon. Have plenty more of these for you. Thanks a lot. Alright, we'll get into this here. As we said, you need to be able to lift that front or that rear wheel in order to do this properly. If you can't do this, take some instruction. We spend a lot of time getting people to lighten and lift that rear wheel. Also, you don't want to rely on your clips to lift the rear end of the bike. All these skills should be able done with flat pedals. You can guide the bike a little with your clips, but you need to rely on technique and not pulling up on your clips. Also, braking modulation is going to come into play here. We're not going to talk about braking today. It's very important, especially in switchbacks. But again, this is directed at the advanced rider. Should be pretty decent at braking. Now, I don't always use my brakes. For instance, right there, in this case, I'm traveling pretty quickly down the trail, and I just kick that rear end out. No brakes in this case. I get to keep that pedal away from that big rock also. However, in these switchbacks, we will be controlling our momentum and braking quite a bit. Alright, so right off, we need to get some timing down with that rear wheel. I ride over this 2x4, I turn in each direction, and I use the impact of that 2x4 to help bounce that rear wheel in the air. Timing, super important in manipulating this rear end. And there you go. There it's done on the trail. Essentially the same thing as that 2x4. And also, this is where you're going to start to be able to bring this technique into play. The rear wheel's going to be in the air for a split second anyway, so why not just give it a little scoot over? Alright, play around with that 2x4. Get your timing down. And here we have a curb functioning as a water bar and a switchback. And there's no consequence. You're not going to fall off any cliff. So use these two skills, the 2x4 and the curb, to help you get this timing down in manipulating the rear end of that bike. Alright? Now also, I don't always do just a big, huge, kick out there. You can see there's a pretty good impact. There could be some skill and control issues. A lot of times I'll break this up into two little kicks. One little guy there, and then again I'll use that water bar or a rock ledge or a root for that second little kick. Alright? Way less labor intensive, way less risk. Set up and then use that water bar. That usually goes pretty well. Okay? So, what we've got going on here. First, learn to use that rear wheel lift, okay? Take some instruction if necessary. Alright, next, get your timing down. Use that 2x4. Be able to kick that wheel to each side. Alright, same thing on a curb. Alright, get to cheat off that curb a little bit with no consequence. And finally, we bring that to the trail using the water bar to help boot that rear end over a little bit. All right, and finally, getting the whole thing going on. It's going to take some practice. Hope you enjoyed. Check back soon. Thanks a lot.